And welcome, folks, to another edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown, focused on the offense with that man they call Al Gorgeous Borges. He is in the house. He
Sam.
was nervous. Al was nervous about Northwestern, turns out.
I told you guys all wanted me to predict some outlandish score, and I told you I got experience with these guys. I know how they play against Michigan, and I knew this was going to be closer than you want, closer than it should have been. That's for sure.
Yeah. It turns out, Al, you know a little something about something.
Not much, but football. I mean, when you dedicate, 50 something odd years of your life to it, you ought to, even through osmosis, pick something up, right?
Yeah. You knew this was going to be a close game. Turned out to be a close game. Al Borges is.
Yeah, but Sam, it really shouldn't have been. It really shouldn't have been. I mean, the 5 turnovers, obviously. I mean, everybody knows about that. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but they had 496 yards to the 245 yards. That's why they won. You say, well, they had 5 turnovers, but they got completely outplayed Northwestern statistically. They had 280 passing yards, which is really encouraging because, we've been talking about that every week, how that part of their game has to improve. It did drastically. 216 rushing yards. That's fabulous balance. Regardless of what Craig Ross says, they outpossessed him 33 minutes to 33:06 to 26:54. And yes, that did have something to do with why they won. So his meaningless argument continues to be weak. 9 out of 14 on third down. Okay. You can't eliminate the turnovers because they played such a big part of the game. But if you didn't look at that, you think this game was 42-10, right? Something like that. I mean, they did outplay them, and there was progress. I'm a little more encouraged, I think, than some of the fan base is by this game because I thought the quarterback, at least up to play 56, we're going to talk about that point, played really well. Not perfect. There were some things still, I think, a couple of footwork issues here and there, but for the most part, played very well, was hitting the target, doing the things he had to do, and making things happen. But now, Sam, my concern as we go is not his progress, because I think it's starting to take. Remember, he threw over 30 passes for the first time in his career, and I think there were 37 called passes. So don't just go by the passing stat, okay? Because there were several times he ran with the ball on passes. He was sacked 3 times. And when you throw the ball more, that instantly means that you're going to be a little more quarterback dependent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, a freshman quarterback throwing that many more times than he's accustomed to,
Keep
there's
talking.
going to be more margin for error, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think all these were factors.
Keep talking. Get to your next point.
Okay. So let's go to how they went about doing it, okay? RPOs were a huge part. They were not as much last week, but were this week. And again, when a team runs a 4-man line, four downs, you will see more RPOs out of Michigan because they have different plans sometimes for teams that play a 3-man line. And I'm not going to go into all the whys of that. We can later if you want, but so you saw 20 RPOs in this game. Of the 20 RPOs, 10 of them were run, and they averaged 6 yards a carry on plays that were RPOs, and 10 of them were passed, and they averaged 9.7 on RPOs when he pulled it, okay? The total RPO package averaged 7.8, okay, which is pretty damn good. I'll take that every game, okay? He's good at it. I mean, he's good at it. But it was maybe 1 RPO too many, and we'll talk about that as we get into the bad parts, okay? Dropped back 27 times. That's a lot, man. That's a lot more than he ever has, all right? And they play past a couple of times. They ran their trap pass 3 times. They got sacked on it once, but they hit a 32-yard gain to Marsh on a post wheel combination off a trap pass. They used their and 1 naked, which was not productive, and 1 dash, which was not productive. But their pocket passing in this game was better than the stuff that in other games was better, like the nakeds, the sprints, the dashes, and all that. So that right there tells you there is some progress being made here. Now, there are errors. We know that, okay? That's why the game was close, okay? We're going to talk about those, I'm sure. but they're fixable errors. These are things. This is some of the game specific stuff I've talked about in the past. The quarterback has to experience that he can't learn on State Street. You can talk about it, but in the games, it's different. Let's talk. And as we get into it, I'm going to let you kind of set the pace for what you want to talk about first or second, okay? But he was the victim of his successes as much as he was his failures. And you'll find that we'll talk about on the second interception, okay? Because it's relevant. Because the same dude was involved in the 3 plays that I'm going to cite. That's number 6, I believe. Fitzgerald, is that the guy that played for Northwestern? So he was, I heard there was a consensus out there he wasn't well protected. I don't agree with that. He was protected on 21 plays where he had the ability to see the throw, take a hitch step and throw. He was pressured on 6 times where he couldn't finish a throw or somebody was in the way or whatever. And he was sacked 3 times. And 2 of those, I think, were well dialed up blitzes into bad looks, just ill-timed calls that got him sacked. But I said 37 call pass plays or 35 call pass plays. And again, that's more than I think they've done. Here's the deal: go ahead, Sam. I'm sorry.
No, definitely more than they've called before. So Al, the thing watching the game, and the thing that I want to frame, as much as we frame the X's and O's in this contest, because you do an amazing job of talking X's and O's, but also talking about how you coach a player mentally. Because to me, this game was about that. After that first interception, he was a different dude.
Yeah,
you can see it. You can see it in his body language.
The body language. Yeah. That's a first. I'm glad you said that because that's the first thing I noticed. Just when the camera shot to him, because I wasn't there. Guys on the sideline know this better than I do. But that's the first thing I noticed. It's the body language wasn't, oh, give me the ball. I can't wait to get back out there. Now, he may have been thinking that. I don't want to over-evaluate that. That's all I got to go on. Okay? So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so that I said after the game, as I how coaches are, they're going to be, this is what you did. This is where your eyes were. This is what your feet were, what your footwork needs to be on this play. Let's fix the mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But they got to make him be Bryce when he wins and Bryce when he loses. They got that fifth, as much as they are working on the mistakes, they got to make this man or this young man feel like Superman no matter what. And what I liken it to, so the story that I tell, the championship year, they played Bowling Green. JJ throws 3 interceptions.
3 picks, yeah.
Now, it's not a totally fair comparison because JJ is junior year JJ. But stay with me for a minute. JJ throws 3 interceptions in the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh my God, what's wrong with JJ? He throws 3 interceptions. So JJ comes up to me after the press conference and he says, I'm gonna be an animal after this, right? I mean, just wait till you see me next week. I'm gonna be an animal, right? Watch how I come back. Because forget what they say. People are gonna say you can't even throw for 400 against Bowling Green because people are expecting you to light up Bowling Green. You can't light up Bowling Green. Then Michigan is gonna be jacked, right? That's what people were saying. It's like, watch me be an animal after this. The point is, that's what you need him being like that after he screws up.
Yeah.
After he throws a pick.
Yes.
Not to say that don't pay attention to the mistakes, but that kind of presence, Al, and as much as they're coaching him on those mistakes, you've been there as a coach. I don't know how you do it, but that's what they need to try to do with him because he's a supremely confident kid anyway, but you could tell that took a little some wind out of his sails after he threw that interception.
No doubt. And as a coach, I took a lot of pride in my ability to emotionally coach the kid as much as I did to technically and tactically coach the kid. I want him to know that aside from the fact you screw up so much, I'm just taking you out, which that didn't necessitate that. Okay. That we still believed in him and that he is going to have to make a play eventually to win this game. You're playing a position that there's nowhere to hide. Okay. So when you talk to a kid after that, first of all, they're going to come off the field very emotional. Some will show it more than others. Okay. Just know that. But whether they're tears in their eyes or whether they're just stoic, they're hurting emotionally. Okay. And you're about half pissed off because of what happened. So you have to draw the line between venting and coaching. Okay. And that's hard for some coaches because we're highly competitive and a little macho, right? But with a quarterback, if you freak out, he's going to freak out. You understand? You want the sense of urgency to be sent in a manner and fashion that allows him to run the next play without caution. Okay? Discriminate, but without caution. And this is every quarterback, they'll tell you when I go I was always stern about what happened, but never so emotional that they were scared to go out there and make another mistake. And that's what happens a lot of times with quarterback is they make a mistake and then they go, oh God, look at the coach is going to freak. So I can't make another. So now they're not letting it rip, right? They can't make the plays they need to make to win the game because they're scared to death of the repercussions. Okay. So it's a delicate balance. You get them on the sideline, you talk to them, hey, listen, we're going to do this one play at a time. Okay. That was a screw up. This is why. Draw it up, explain it, however you got to do it. Okay. So that we know that we don't get a repeat error and then move on. All right. Time to play ball. At the end of the day, so what? So what? I screwed up. I made it harder. So what? I'll make up for it. And as long as you don't try and make up for it all on one play, which I think there was a little of that too, you still can get back in it. You can still be that leader and that player that everybody recruited you as, So it's delicate. You got to be a little bit of a psychologist when you're a coach, and know what the hot buttons are with each kid and how to handle each kid. Some kids, they like it if you chew them out. It doesn't bother them as much. But I don't think a freshman playing in a game like that, throwing as many balls as he threw, I don't think that was the answer. And I don't think that's how they handle it. Okay. But you could tell the next two series ended in turnovers, whether it was a fumble on an exchange on a 4th and 1 play, or it was a misread on an RPO. They ended, but at the end of the day, the coach reined him in, ran the football more, took a little pressure off him, but told him, we're going to need you. We're going to need you. And he made a clutch play in that last drive, making a fabulous throw with a great catch by Marsh, who's, oh my God, has really come into his own. That kid has become quite a receiver. But that play kept it going and resulted in, well, you saw what it resulted in. But that's the way the position is played, man. There's just a lot of ebb and flow, man. And the right tackle's mistakes are not near as monumental as the quarterbacks. They can be on occasion, but not. The quarterback makes a mistake, it can result in a touchdown the other way or a loss of possession or whatever. So you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So a couple of things. Let's start off how he started off on a high note.
Mm-hmm.
Like we knew watching last year that RPOs would be effective against Northwestern. Michigan was not an RPO team last year. Fair to say, right? They were not. And yet they RPO'd Northwestern because you could see that could attack this team. And they were really effective. They scored 50 points, right? And so Bryce has been a really effective RPO quarterback, even as a freshman. And I want to bring this up from one of the viewers, Al. So Vikent on YouTube says, not my style. RPO is difficult, especially for a freshman. I've decided to view each rep as a nickel in the jar. Year 2 and 3 could result in a very high-functioning offense with Chip and Bryce. Al, I'm curious what you think about the second part of his statement. I've decided to view each rep as a nickel in a jar. Year 2 and 3 could result in a very high-functioning offense with Chip and Bryce. I tend to agree with that. How about you?
Yeah, I think there's something to that. The thing to understand about the RPO, okay, it can be dicey because it puts a lot on the quarterback, okay? He's got to decide if the ball's run, if the ball's passed, and once he decides that he's going to throw it, he's got to make a good decision, okay? It's a lot of moving parts there. So there's a lot of margin for error. The good news is that it is very threatening to the defense. It's a pain in the butt, okay? And the better news is the quarterback had some exposure to it before he ever stepped on campus. Okay, so that really helps that you're not starting from ground one. So it fits him well. It fits him well. It does. And to continue to develop it again, I'm an RPO fan, but I'm not an RPO nut. Okay, because I do think it's a use it, don't abuse it proposition. Too much of it screws up your run to pass ratio and makes the quarterback forced to be Superman. So I think there is a point where. And in this game, Sam, just FYI, and I like to give you stats that nobody else could give you, okay? RPOs, 21 runs were tagged without RPOs, okay? 20 were tagged with RPOs. So that just gives you a little idea how they go about it. It's not a every time proposition.
Yeah, so listen, you want the surest sign that Sharon has turned the reins over to Chip? 20 RPOs. 20 RPOs. You're talking about a guy that was not running RPOs. Like, he is truly, you're talking about a guy that's talking to Jim Harbaugh. Like, he's talking to Jim Harbaugh like every week. Like, Sharon is always talking to Jim Harbaugh. You think a guy that's always talking to Jim is running RPOs? Give me a break. Give me a break. This is Chip Lindsey. Now, does he have parameters? Sure, he has.
Oh, hell, everybody does. I have.
Everybody has parameters, right?
Everybody has a coach, yeah.
Because he's, but 20 RPOs tells you Chip is running the offense. But here is, to get back to Vikings' point, the reason why RPO can be so prevalent is what Al said. This is Bryce's comfort zone. Mm-hmm. He was so familiar with the concept from high school that this was part of easing his transition. You want to give him a go-to play. This is what Denard is talking about. What are his layup? Give a quarterback his layup. RPO is that's one of his layups, right? So it just fits to RPO him. Now, a sign of his struggle over the last 2 games leading up to the bye was that he wasn't really executing RPOs at as high a clip as he had been, where he was knocking it out of the park. So could he come off the bye and return to form with the RPOs? And boy, did he ever, Al. I mean, you gave the stats. He was dicing them up.
Yeah, he was.
The RPOs, man. Dicing them.
It was. I mean, they weren't handling it. Northwestern was not handling it. Now, understand Northwestern's approach, okay? They are basically a cover 4 team, okay? In this game, they ran 40 snaps of some variation of 40, whether it's 4 press, a normal 4, maybe a poach 4, a few different deals, okay? Which dictates mostly a static front, okay, where you're not going to get near as much movement up front with the D-line and all those types of things. But they also did this. They mixed in a lot of run blitzing, okay, where they would bring safeties through the middle. They got us on a reverse one time where the end blew outside because the safeties were coming in. He was fencing the blitz in, so he wasn't going to close like he normally does on a split zone or whatever. And the reverse was off a double bluff look, which they'd used in previous games, and he just blew up and got right in the point, where what I would call the mesh point, the point where they didn't really mesh. It was a pitch, but he got right in the way of it, and they just hit it. It was not a 4-deep look. It was one of the 11 times they did some form of run blitz. So it was just an ill-timed call, but to say it shouldn't have been around here, oh, what a bad call. 40 times they were in a look that I know that play would have been big. Okay, he just wasn't in that play, and things happen. That's play calling, man. It's not what you call, Sam. When you call it. Okay. So that was part of it, and then they played some 2 deep. 11 times I got them in some form of 2 at Tampa 2. Different variations of that. And they brought that nickel, that nickel dog that has raised some hell with Michigan. I saw that 10 different times. So, they did a great job of mixing their stuff, and their team that doesn't put themselves, a lot like Iowa. They don't put themselves out of position a lot. And if you do have a ill-timed call, you can pay for it. But they had a lot more timely calls than they had ill-timed calls. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and so Bryce was doing such a good job with the RPOs. He was in a groove, man. You could see it. I mean, he was seeing the field. He was reading it right. He was giving when he needed to give. He was on time and on target with his throws. He even ran one really effectively himself. Like, he was making the right play seemingly every time. And it really helped them achieve good balance. It was unfortunate that they weren't able to cash in on that first drive. I mean, not even with a field goal, which they missed. I felt like the touchdown. I didn't think it was a hold. Person, I don't know what you thought, Al. I didn't think it was a hold. I think they took a touchdown off the board unfairly. But to not score, to have a score taken off the board or miss a field goal in a low possession game is a really, with a offense that had been struggling, is a really, really tough blow, right? But it underscores to me, in the early going, he was rolling. Now, after that, Al, they had a series of drives where they were still moving the ball, but they weren't finishing those drives.
Let me go back, Sam, while you're on the first drive. Okay, let's go back. This is what's encouraging to me. Again, I look through the numbers and into the reality as much as I possibly can. The first drive was 10 plays, but there was only one RPO thrown. And it wasn't thrown. It was the holding penalty. It was the only RPO. Okay. The third play of the game, the first play of the game, they had a little double stick route where he had to move his feet and he checked the ball down to Marshall. Okay. And it gained 8 plays, 8 yards. Pocket pass required a little bit of an improv move, but he did a nice job with that. He got sacked on the third call on a trap pass that just wasn't blocked real well. The back had to abort, and there just wasn't a lot of room in there. But off that, he threw verticals, hit a hitch outside, gained 10 yards. Okay. Turned around on 3rd and 5, threw X shallow with a post wheel combination outside, tied it over the ball, shallow cross, and he hit, I believe, he hit McCulley for a 13-yard gain. Okay, so there's 2 drop back passes. Okay, that's got him back on track. Okay, next call is a trap pass again with a post wheel where he hits Marsh in the pocket again for a 32-yard gain. No RPOs now. This is just pocket passing. Okay, which is what we've said has been a struggle for him. The next play, they run a little double cross. He had to scramble run. He got sacked. Okay, which I thought he probably left the pocket maybe a little early, but it wasn't god awful. Okay, they ran a counter or stretch play bubble, which gained only 1, and then the last play was a dagger. He dumped a little wide check down, and they missed the field goal. But the first drive, in terms of his productivity on plays that were not RPOs, it was really, really good. Okay, so it was more to me than just the RPOs. It went beyond. I think they were, as we cited already, they were very productive, but it was more than just that.
Yeah, great point. Great point. It shows the work they did in the bye. That right.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think there was an intent in this game to up the ante with the passing game, knowing that they're going into games where they're going to really need it. Okay. So, and Northwestern was vulnerable to some things. So, I think mission accomplished from that perspective, even with the bad plays, because I think they were good learning experiences.
Yeah. And it was really, to your point, though, it was from drive 2 on where the RPOs really was like, okay, now let's start hitting them with.
Yeah, right. Play 11, open zone, hitch vertical. He hits Marsh for a 12-yard gain. Okay. They ran a design bubble just to get him a little confidence builder. This was not an RPO. but they just flipped the ball out to Marsh, and he gained 7 yards. They had a play they put in for this game where they wrapped the tight end around to the open side, and they read it as an RPO. Well, the first time they did it, they brought the nickel, so he threw a completion again to Marsh for an 11-yard gain. Okay, so now the RPOs got amped up in the next drive. Okay, one of the plays they're running, Sam, I want to talk about this just a second. That Chip, I think, is up the ante on a little bit. Is where they will RPO to a slot side and switch release the two outside receivers. One guy will go in, one guy will go out. The inside guy checks it out, ends up hooking up. The outside guy, I think, can keep going if it's there or sit down if it's not. He reads the edge. It's usually an open stretch play, okay, which is good on RPOs because there's less likelihood the lineman could be downfield, right? He pulls it, and he's really gotten good at this, okay? And he throws it, and it gained 15 yards, play 17. Oh, no, those what happened. He pulled it. He did throw this several times, and not on this play. He took off and ran for 17 yards, which is part of the RPOs, the third option in the RPOs, particularly if you've got a good running quarterback. Yeah. So but what they've done lately, and in this game, is they started running that same switch combination with inside zone, which they had not done until I believe last week. But that's been so good for him. They're building the package to where they can expand on different runs off that RPO look, and it was really good in this game.
Yeah, nuance.
Yeah, a lot of nuance. Yeah.
A lot of nuance.
Oh, hey, Sam, the double slice made a comeback. Double slice made a comeback. They changed the look. Remember against Michigan State, they got into 13 personnel, okay, and ran the double slice. They got into 12 and some 11 personnel and run the double slice, and one of them hit for 46 yards. So, again, nuance, different looks, same plays, not obvious to the offense what plays come because they don't have that look on video, and that was very productive for them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so you're, I think, seeing when it comes to play sequencing, play calling, I think the menu was outstanding. They were not able to always finish. You shot yourself in the foot a couple times, but you get to a point where you're finally up 21-9, and then you weren't able to put your foot on the gas pedal or put your foot on the neck because you started turning the football over. You got a punt return that you muff, or not you muff, but that you fumble, and then you get the first interception. Al, so let's start talking about the turnovers.
Okay.
There. So let's talk about the first interception first.
Okay. First interception was versus a 6-man pressure, 3 deep, 2 under. It's the old Michigan State deal. They did, I call it 3 eyes. Okay, what's 3 eyes? 3 eyes is when they bring 6, assuming that the pressure is not going to allow the quarterback to look anybody off. So there's all kinds of holes in that coverage, but they assume you can't hold it long enough to find them. So, okay, they brought 6. We picked it up. Michigan did a great job. Back came across formation, swept across the formation, picked it up. Everything was handled. There was a little tiny bit of push on the 3 technique, but it wasn't god awful. It was probably going to dictate maybe a little bit of a little spot change for the quarterback, a little back out maybe, but nothing that could dissuade him from making a throw. Okay, when I watched it on TV, the first thing I thought is, he stared it down. Oh, God. Young quarterback mistake. I watched it on the All-22. He didn't really stare it down. I mean, the guy stole his eyes after the fact, not from the get, okay? They had a little combination going with the tight end hooking over the ball, the slot man running down the seam, and the outside guy running a hitch. The backside route was an out cut, some form of out cut, okay? That was the route that was singled up. After the fact, that's where the ball should have gone, and if you look on the All-22 end zone view, it looks like he's starting to look over there, okay? But he got off it, and by that time, now I believe it was the nickel, Turner, that's his name, I think, stole his eyes and jumped underneath a late throw in the middle. Okay. So, and it wasn't way late. It was just late enough for them to steal his eyes, which is all that matters, right? At the end of the day. So that was more of a misread than a stare down. Okay. More of a misread than a stare down because the X into the boundary was open. The Z to the field was open. He just didn't get to the right throws on that.
So work with me. Talk to me, Al. Counsel me. Because I asked Denard about this. Because it did seem like he looked at the X, glanced at the X, not glance route, but it looked like he glanced at the X for a second and came off it.
Yeah, and he may have got a little rush intimidated. You know what I mean?
Yes, and that was my impression.
Yeah, that could have been the case.
And so what I'm trying to get to here is the point that you made. It was picked up, Al. This is the protection. The protection was they picked up everything here. Mm-hmm. And so to me as the coach, is this where you show them say, hey, this is what we got here. Right? We picked it all up. This one where we got to trust the protection because it was all hand. If he just does that, because he looked the right way. He actually did look the right way on this play, and then came back and
got his eyes stolen. Yeah. Here's the deal, and again, this is something you don't learn on State Street because they're not going to hit you, Sam. State Street, they're going to hit you on Main Street, right? So you drop back, and what in your mind you're thinking, I don't care what happens here. I care a lot more what's happening out there. It's kind of, you got to kind of think of it like it's a 7-on-7 drill, although that's hard to do when these guys are coming to knock your head off. But that's how you got to kind of think. I'm looking at what's out here. I got to trust all these dudes to do their job. My job is to use the proper footwork with the proper timing and make the proper read. And all that is geared to what's happening out there. Okay? Those dudes up front got to handle all that other stuff. Okay? So in the middle of the play, you can't abort that thinking. Okay? Otherwise, you're never gonna get your feet set to make a throw. You're always gonna be concerned about somebody knocking you down. Now, in fairness to him, he did that a lot in this game. He did a good job of standing there and making some throws. But I think he saw a ghost or something there, something that took him off the throw. I think his instincts were telling him to throw. Yeah, but and again, the youth of the quarterbacks got to see all the scenarios, got to take the hits, got to go through the ebb and flow of the position, and you figure those things out over time. Hopefully, anyway.
Okay. So we got the first interception down. Let's move on to the second interception.
Okay. Now that is a residual, Sam. Okay. That was a residual of other plays. Okay. Number 6 was in cover 4 looks 40 times in the game. He knew they were going to pick on him, but he had to use his mind. I got to get involved in the run. This is a great running team. So if I see a gross run read, I'm going to force fast, which he did several times. Okay. The first play of the second half, they pulled the ball and tried to throw the quick post. The safety started up and then jumped and tipped the ball. Okay. Now, I didn't think that was necessarily a bad read. I think he had a shot at rolling it over him. Okay. But, okay. He's aware of what's happening to him. Okay. The second time later on, same thing happens. Pulls the ball for the RPO. He comes buzzing down to stop it, and he hits McCulley for a big gain. Okay. Almost a touchdown. The corner kind of clipped him, and he went down. Remember that play? Uh-huh. Okay, so now number 6 is seeing the same look twice, okay? Bryce has now had at this point, I believe he's thrown the interception we talked about, and there was a fumble on the 4th and 1. So some lousy things have happened, okay? No, I take that back. No, that is not it. He has already thrown 1 interception. The fumble came after this, now that I look at it, okay? So the number 6 is aware, and Bryce is aware. He just hit a big play to McCulley. So the same thing comes up. This time it's off a dual kick. Okay, they're going to run a little dual kick to the field.
What's the down and distance on that play?
Down and distance is 2nd and 4. Okay. All right. So they have this combination off a variety of runs. Okay, but this one was off a dual kick. So this time, number 6 kind of starts a little tiny bit forward, but he never breaks the box. Now, what's the box? I used to always tell the quarterback the box is determined by where the umpire is standing, okay? And the umpire being that big official in the middle that calls holding all the time that you want to kick in the pants, you know? If he breaks that plane, he's now become a linebacker, okay? But if he's outside that plane, he's in position where we can hand the ball off and the back and beat him. We don't want the back to get the ball and he's making the play 2 yards from the line of scrimmage. So this is where the beauty of the RPO is you can pull that ball if he forces hard and throw it behind him, which they did earlier, right? Well, this time I don't know this for a fact because I'm not in Northwestern's huddle, but I'm thinking he baited him. I think because of what had happened the previous 2 plays, he kind of started forward a little bit, maybe just to get him to pull it, and then jumped right in the middle of the throw. At the end of the day, the ball should have been exchanged. I mean, that's, you know what I'm saying? It should have been exchanged. He was outside the box and the back should have got the ball. Okay. So again, it was a live and learn play. I bet that never came up on State Street, Sam. I bet that, you can say, well, they should have done this and showed him that, but I don't know that it did. So it was a live and learn play. And it was at a bad time, so it was painful. And it followed 2 other. It was followed by another turnover next, so it was even more painful. So, but that's what happened. And I think that the 4 deep safety kind of baited him into the throw. Yeah. And if he didn't, he had a hell of a reaction. If he didn't do that one.
Yeah, I think he had several clues of what was coming.
Yeah. Well, remember now what I told you about. I told you about Northwestern. I told you about 4 years ago. What's that?
I said, yeah, you did. You did.
Yeah, they're smart. They're smart. They're smart kids. It reminds me of when I was at UCLA. We played Stanford. At Stanford was the same way. They would do little things that no other team would do. You know what I mean? So you got to kind of account for that sometimes. Don't hand out. Listen, this guy, you know, he's got a major in what's his major? That class you took.
Yeah.
You know, he's not
equations out.
Yeah, he's smart dude, and he's watching the video, and they coach him too, and all that stuff. So
I think he knew it was an RPO before the play.
Oh, I think he did too. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah,
he'd already seen it.
Yeah,
he'd already been beat on it. Okay.
Yeah, before the play even snapped, he knew an RPO was coming. Because early in the game, I saw a 3-man surface and I saw Goodwin in the game. And I said, duo kick is coming. Because Jonathan Goodwin is his dad, but Channing Goodwin in the game right now, bigger receiver. He's going to be the kicker on this play. I'm telling Steve Clark next to me. Right? Okay, this makes talk. And that's exactly what came.
That's what came.
On the play that you're talking about, Al, Samaj Morgan is in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Samaj Morgan is the kicker. Now, hey, look, you know what? Very well. Good. You can run duo kick with Samaj Morgan. But if it was a definite duo, if I'm definitely running duo, if I'm calling a duo kick, that's not the receiver that I got in there.
It's usually Bradison. It's usually 12
But if I'm going to run it, but my point is, if I'm going to have a receiver in the game,
it's probably not going to be Samaj.
Receiver is going to be the kicker.
Yeah,
it's not going to be Samaj, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is one of the context clues that, born at night, not last night, and he's seen. You've seen this. You've seen how he's attacked you, number 6, before at RPO. I think either you or Denard said he's tipped it once.
Tipped it the first play, second half.
Yeah. He's tipped it once, and so
he got burned on it once. Okay,
and he got burned on it once, and now he has some pre-snap clues too. This dude is primed and ready, and so Denard said, after I saw the tip, That would have been my cue. But see, I'm a veteran quarterback. He said as a freshman, I probably would have, he might have gotten me too. He said, but Bryce will learn from this.
Yeah.
He said, Bryce, this experience, what happened to him in this sequence here, he will learn from this right here, the trauma of watching this smart guy outfox him here will stay with him for the rest of his days as a quarterback.
Yeah, and that's my conjecture on it. I may be right. He may just have reacted. I don't know, but I don't think so. My instincts tell me that kid knew exactly what was coming and was going to try and fool the quarterback.
Yeah, man. I gotta tell you, Borges, one of those deals as you move and you see a guy who is, you see the high and he's going so well, and you can almost see, Coach, man, I was killing these guys. I was just killing these guys, Coach. I was just killing them. What happened in 10 minutes? 10 minutes ago, I was dicing these guys up, and now I can't complete a pass over the middle of the field.
That's ball, Sam. That's ball. Just like that, man. Things can change. I mean, 5 turnovers. How many? The thing about it, 5 turnovers. The other team didn't have any. 0. I mean, if you get a little give and take on that, they had none. So that's what kept the game close because they were getting physically beaten. They were outstatted they were getting outplayed. But those turnovers kept them in the game, gave them a chance.
So Al, as a play caller, though, so let's look at the positive coming off of that, though, because Bryce comes back and makes a great throw to Marsh, to Andrew Marsh on the side, who had a brilliant game.
Oh God,
brilliant game. It was a good throw, but it was an amazing catch.
Yeah, I was sure it was in when I saw the replay. Oh my God, he caught it.
Yeah, amazing catch by. I should be wearing this shirt. I'm gonna have to. You know what? I'm gonna change my shirt for the live with Vance to pay homage to Andrew Marsh, because his mantra he sells just it's gonna be all right. Because I'm coming. He says it's gonna be all right, Sam. It's gonna be all right. I'm on the way. Right? I mean, just a really confident dude. And so, man, you gotta play this guy. Just put it in the vicinity. He's gonna make the play, right? But it was the throw, it was the catch, but the mind of a play caller, Al, and put me in that frame of mind. We'll get to the questions and the grades. But watching Chip, who's calling the game a certain way early on, we got you saw him open up the game, and he got Bryce going all over the field, drop backs, and it's working, RPOs working. Now he's thrown 2 interceptions over the middle of the field, Coach. And the sequencing of throws after that, you see, he's putting them on the move. He's throwing outside the hashes. I thought this was coaching, Al. This was part of the mental coaching too, because he's giving him some throws that were more comfortable for him given the circumstances.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that. That's because the play caller now has a fragile quarterback. Okay. He went from a very confident quarterback to a fragile quarterback. How do you shift gears? Well, all right. First thing that Lindsey did is he put him right back in his power zone. First call, 1st and 10 was tight zone switch line. Okay. Which is the RPO we were talking about that he's been hitting during the game. Not the one he threw the interception on. This is where he can move the pocket a little bit and do what he does. Okay. That didn't hit. It was incomplete to Marsh. But the next play was a little sit Y hook, was also incomplete. But then the 3rd and 10 call. Okay. They isolated Marsh one-on-one in the backside. Okay. And he ran a corner route. Okay. And he got good pass protection. Okay. He got good pass protection, had to move a little bit, even though the protection was good, and then threw a dime that I don't know where else he could have thrown it and been complete. So he recovered. That was huge. Went right back after that, ran the sprint draw, which has been a great go-to play. I'd gained 3 yards. Ran a tight zone switch slide again, same deal. Running the plays that he ran well earlier in the game. That gained 3 yards, putting him 3rd and 5. They ran a little double stick. Bryce took off and ran 9 yards for a first down. Went right back to open zone, double hitch, another RPO that he'd thrown early in the game successfully. And then now they're in field goal range. Okay. Now they're getting into field goal range. RPOs all get wiped off. He runs an open side zone play that gains 1. He runs a split zone play that gains 5. He runs another open side zone play with no RPO tag, gains 5. They kick the field goal, win the game. So you can see how it shifted after the last turnover. Is he went to the stuff he had done successfully, consistently. He didn't get away from the RPO game, but he got to the RPOs that he'd run the best, okay? Until he got in a position where, okay, no more RPOs. We're going to run the guys, and we got a great kicker who's going to kick this thing easily. That was in their mind, and it was well managed.
Yeah. Terrific job. All right. You guys always do a terrific job of asking Al Borges questions. So if you have questions for Al, put them in the chat. If you have questions for Al, put them in the chat right now while he gets to his grades. So, Al, go ahead and knock them down.
Well, I'm starting with the wide receivers because I gave them an A, okay? And mostly Marsh, but not just Marsh. There's a couple instances they could have done a little better job blocking. I could have made that an A-, but I thought the game was pretty complete with regard to that. With Bryce, gave him a B- to C+. Great start, not such a good ending, but incredible game to learn from. More than any game I think they played. The running backs were a B. Tight ends were a B+, and the O-line was a B-. The O-line was really good in the run, not bad on the pass. Most of the times I grade them down were technique issues, which did cost them at times, but I thought they were pretty salty when it all said and done. You got to give the O-line at least a B. They rushed for over 200. They passed for 260. That's a pretty good game. Okay, that the O-line can't play bad, and you get those kind of numbers. So, not quite A level, but not bad. So, that's what I got.
Al, one of the things that we talked about real quick before we move on to the questions, talked about deep ball accuracy, right? And so Denard was using your two throw. He was calling it 2B. Is there like a?
That's his addition. Okay. But I know what he's saying. There's a little variation to two throws. Some of them are higher than others. Okay.
Okay. All right. So he seems to have chemistry all over the board with Andrew Marsh. I wonder if it's specific chemistry with receivers as opposed to chemistry in general. And I'm talking about specifically as it relates to Bryce and Donovan McCulley, because you had the one where he's running down the sideline and it was high, right? That was early in the game.
Right.
And then there was the one where he was going the other way later in the game where he underthrew him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he overshot him and he undershot him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, and McCulley was better ball. He has a chance on both plays to have a big play. So it seems like those two aren't quite on the same page, but if they just tweak it just a little bit, that man, they could really, really have something right there. So what do you think about that? Is it you think it's just a matter of those two needing to get chemistry, or do you think it's a bigger picture with Bryce?
No, I think they just got to throw the ball to each other more, and gain more confidence in it. And Bryce has got to know that you always got to give the guy a chance. Okay. And when the ball's, the trajectory of the throws, whether it's a one throw, a two throw, or three throw, or whatever, is dictated by the coverage, right? You don't want to be throwing a two throw when the intent is to throw the ball behind the deepest defender, because
now throw. When you say that, what is it?
Two throw is the I equate it to the crossbar. Okay. If you're going to throw a ball right over the top of the crossbar, so it got a little bit higher than that, where you're dropping it between defenders, whether it's between a corner and a safety in the two deep, whether it's between a linebacker and a safety, in a two deep, you're laying the ball behind the underneath coverage and in front of the deep coverage. Okay. Where a three throw is throwing the ball behind the deepest defender, a go route, something like that, or a post where, you might have a dagger called and the safety bites and you got to lay it out. Now, when you're throwing the three throw, and this is where I think Bryce has got to improve some, is he's got to know that there's got to be more air in the ball, okay? Because with air in the ball, the receiver, who always gets the first look at the throw, can make an adjustment, okay? He made a throw a couple of weeks ago where I think it was Klein running down the side. I heard Brian Cook say that he should have been caught. Yeah, like the ball was no way could that ball be caught because he couldn't adjust to that ball, okay? You get the ball in the air so he can see it. He can either run through the throw, he can stop and high point the throw, or he can literally slow down and take it in front of the defender, almost like, that jet running by like in that Tom Cruise movie. He keeps running, but you stop. But he can't do any of that with a two throw. He's got to get a three throw that his vision, where he can spot the ball early to make the first adjustment, okay? So this is where I think he's got some still learning, okay? Because these kids could get these throws. They don't always have to be perfectly thrown, but you can't adjust unless you get a good look at the ball and there's enough air in it to make the adjustment. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was one time I saw, I think Marsh ran by the guy. Maybe it was McCullough. I don't remember. But there just wasn't enough air in the ball for him to make a play on it. So as he learns that more and more, you'll see more dynamic catches because these kids can make them. You may never see it show up if the guys weren't physically capable, but these guys can.
Mm-hmm. All right. It is time to start getting to the questions for Al. If you have questions for Al, put them in the chat. Again, if you have questions for Al, put them in the chat, and we will start knocking them down. Super chats, go to the top. We always appreciate you, super chatters. And so, let's start getting to them. And then we go first to D5. Hey, Al, what's the delayed running back play that we always run? Is that a read for Bryce? He follows up. Guess I'm asking, is there a counter off that play? I think he's something about the sprint draw, Al.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I figure out which one he's talking about. It's an interesting play, okay? Because the quarterback runs the sprint. The tight end has to make sure the C gap's taken care of, and the outside guy a lot of times is not blocked. But the quarterback will hand the ball and continue to run, hoping that pulls that outside guy up, okay? There is no RPO off it. It's a call it and run it type play, But when it's run right, oh, God, you could crease them because all the line turns back and all they do is just see what shows up in their gap and block it, okay? But it's all predicated on securing the C gap of the tight end and finessing the outside guy who a lot of time is unblocked because the quarterback's going to continue to carry the fake out.
Let's go back to the questions for Borges. All right. Sam and Al, what type of offense did Bryce run in high school? Understandably, college playbook has more depth, but are there things from his high school playbook that could be implemented to help?
Well, I think they do. They do some of that. Now, they're not going to run his high school playbook, but they have implemented a litany of RPOs, which is he was a spread quarterback, and rightfully so. He's perfect for it. The biggest thing with Bryce is they're going to accommodate the run-pass option stuff. But he's got to continue to develop in the other phases of the offense, whether it's the play action or the drop back game. And once he gets that, I think you're going to have a complete guy because his athletic ability will take care of the improv part of the offense. But it's the structural part of the offense, in particular pocket passing, has to continue to develop.
Yeah. I mean, and you gave evidence in the first drive where you saw, and this is the most passes he's thrown in the game. And definitely the most pocket passes he's thrown in the game. I think it's the most RPOs in the game. It's the most everything in a game from a passing perspective. And so even in the failure, there can be growth. And I think that'll be the case for him in this contest. But there was definitely a lot of success in it too, especially early in this contest. Next question comes from David Mendenhall on Facebook. Says, do you think we will ramp up the passing game against Maryland with the possible absence of Marshall?
I think it'll be a very similar approach. I do. I think that they'll, and with the caveat that there may be some battlefield decisions. If they're not throwing the ball as well as they'd like to be, I don't care who the running back is, you're going to see some runs. And even in this game, the third back came in the game and he ran the ball very well. I thought did a very nice job. So yeah, I think it'll be a similar approach, but stay tuned on it.
What did you see on? What did you see on that fumble between?
I think two issues that I saw. Okay, is it was not seated well to start with. Okay, they've run a million wedge plays, and it just wasn't seated well. So I don't know if he got the snap real good. Well, it didn't look like a bad snap. And the other thing is, understand something. Okay, the kid taking the handoff, 24. Help me with his name, Sam.
Bryce Underwood.
Cosdahl, who did a great job. You can bet, and I'm just this is the coordinator and me talking, that they didn't practice that play very much with that kid during the week because the first two backs,
we're gonna run it.
We're gonna run it, yeah, for the most part. Okay, and the first one back's gonna run it the most part. So, it's a mesh that it's dicey. It's nothing more than a quarterback sneak being handed to the back. Okay. It's a wedge play. Everybody's coming off. It's been a great play for Michigan. They got more first downs on this play than you can count. But I think he might have been a hair tight too. He might have been a little bit tight too. And the combination of the two is, I think, what resulted in the fumble.
Yeah, and so piggybacking off of that, let me jump to these two questions about the wedge. So let me get them both up, Al, here really quickly. One was from Steve, and then I have that in the main. All right, so Steve asks, Gorgeous, do you think we should rethink the wedge play as our go-to short yardage play? Doesn't seem to fit our younger old linemen. If so, what would fit these guys better? And then another one to sort of piggyback off of that, Al, has to do with shotgun. Yeah.
I knew that was coming. I knew that one was coming.
Nick Presto 8364 says shotgun mesh point on 4th and 1. Why not go under center gap scheme like on the goal line?
Well, you can. I mean, you can.
So what do you think of those two?
The inches, understand, you're thinking in short yardage is how far do you have to go? How imposing can you be? Okay. Now, I was under center guy. So the first, especially in those situations, I cut my teeth in under center football play. So in those situations, we were more often going under center. But that said, Michigan, if you did a cut up, okay, put together a cut up over the last few years and this year, so that we're not just saying it's the old linemen, it's these linemen do, of the wedge play, you're going to see it's been highly successful. I mean, it's a no-brainer play. It's a step inside, keep your shoulders square, keep your pad level down, and don't get creased. Back is going to hit right smack over the middle of the ball, and if he's got to launch, he'll launch. If not, he'll just mush it up in there. And more often than not, if somebody doesn't screw up their footwork or get turned, you're going to get a first down. I mean, but the problem with it is when they don't, okay? Because you can run 10 short yardage goal line plays, score on 9 of them. Only one anybody could talk about is the one you didn't, okay? So, no, I would not overthink this play. And going under center is a thought. Again, it's more in my wheelhouse, but they have proven they don't really have to do that. I think this was a result of two players that just had not done that much more than anything else. So, yeah, there's a good point to be made, but it's been successful the way they've been doing it. So let's go by what's happened the most, rather than the anecdotal play that didn't work. If we're going to gear what we're going to do in the future, okay. Now, if he did that several times and it failed, I'd say you better listen to what you're saying, because now you're just beating your head against the wall. But I don't think that's really been the case.
All right. Next one from Jester's Jinx. Gorgeous, I'm back. Thanks for the super chat, Jester's Jinx. Will we go to the playoffs? Gorgeous Borges.
Well, we got to beat the evil empire, right? We have to beat the evil empire. We got to beat Maryland first. I mean, I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but we got to get the evil empire here, and we got to put them on their back and make them cry uncle. And for all you guys that have been comparing scores, this drives me crazy. Oh, look, they beat him by this much, but we only beat him by this much.
Look at this member of the evil empire.
Get that out of your mind.
Look at this guy. Here's one right here. Jumping in from the empire. This guy right here. See, they can't help themselves but jump in on our so I put them out there so you guys.
That's why they are who they are, Sam.
Just so you can go after him. So go get him in the chat. Go get him.
That's why they are who they are. They give that.
Now you know who he is. Go get him. All right. On to the next one. See, I'm not gonna even kick him out. I'm just gonna let him out.
Don't let them talk. I want to hear them. Yeah, that's good.
All right, on to the next one. Comes from. Let's see. It will be from. Oh yeah, I didn't get this. So John Stoop 5850 says that female ref called it Northwestern's ball before the play was even over. Talking about the fumble and the recovery. Get the refs in there who aren't green. I didn't get how that went down. I don't get how they called possession before they determined who had the ball. The best I could figure after the fact was they had to go with the call on the field because they couldn't see from the review, like when was the whistle blown and who had the ball when the whistle was blown. Could they really tell? So you had to go with the call on the field.
Here's what my experience tells me. Okay, again, and I'm just talking from. You may have the ball, okay, and again, I couldn't really see either, so I'm not speaking with any expertise on this other than my own experience. Whoever comes up with the ball at the end of the play is going to get the ball in those types of plays. If they wrestle it away from you, you may be on top of it for about 2 seconds, but because there's a big pile, it doesn't get unpiled in a timely fashion. If somebody rips it out of your hands, they're giving them the ball. That's just the way it happens. I don't know if that happened in that play, but I just know how that goes because they don't really know.
Well, hell, Samaj came out with the ball.
Yeah, well, then more often than not, he should get the ball.
But, yeah, Samaj had the ball at the end. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what happens more often than not is if you got it at the end of the day and there's a big pile. Now, I'm not talking about if it was clear that somebody recovered it. I'm talking about there's a big pile and you're not sure. They don't know. They just got to go by who has it last.
Yeah, it made no sense because I was trying to figure out first whether they're challenging. Then I realized what they were challenging. Like, how did she even call it? I have no idea what that was. But anyway.
I want to be clear on one thing. Whether she called it right or wrong, it had nothing to do with the fact that she's female. Okay. So let's just be clear.
I wasn't saying it did.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to I should have said the referee, not the female referee. Okay.
Yes. Okay. The referee. You're right. Should have just said the referee. On to the next one. Realistic and objective says, has Chip decided to move on from the tight ends?
Oh, no, not even close. But I will say this, in response to that, because that's a very, very good question. Personnel-wise, and I think this has something to do with the heavy RPO, they were in 12 personnel 29 times, but they were in 11 personnel 46 times, which is more than normal. Usually those two are close to each other, But I think the reason that there was more imbalance is because the RPO world looked a lot better in this game with 11 personnel. I'm guessing, but I think it's an educated guess. But it was pretty heavy 11 in this game.
Okay.
Yes, I am for the chicks. Yes, I am. That's astute. I am a fan of women.
And the ladies are a fan of Al Borges.
Yeah, they are. Why wouldn't they be, Sam?
I can't believe it, but they are. They love Al Borges. Let's see. Observation from Mr. Big Dad 48 says Bryce has tremendous talent, but he needs to be more consistent. Bryce showed resilience on the game-winning drive, especially the throw to Marsh. That's a big takeaway, Al.
He did. The last thing that happened on the field was positive. That makes the plane ride a lot more enjoyable for everybody, but Bryce in particular because of that lull in in the middle of the second half that wasn't so good. So it's nice to finish on a good note.
That is correct. All right. On to the next one from Michigan Real Talk says, Coach, have you ever coached in a game where you had -5 takeaways and won? Would you say that win at Wrigley Field showed you a lot of character?
I think it did. The ability to overcome adversity. Now I'm going to give you one. I'm going to one up that. When I was coaching at Boise State, we had a playoff game back in 1994 where we played Appalachian State. They were still 1AA, as were we at the time. We turned the ball. It was raining cats and dogs. I mean, it was just almost an untenable day. We turned the ball over 7 times and won the game, 17-10. The good news is they turned it over 5 times, which gave us a chance. Had that been 7-0, I don't think we'd won the game. But it was just one of those games where the ball was hard to handle, and so yeah, I've been there.
Woo, woo. Yeah, but conditions really contribute.
Yeah, they can play a big part.
Yeah. All right, on to the next question for Al. This one comes from Nala 8846. Says, Sam, shout out Andrew Marsh. What a stud. You called it from jump. Off topic, our guy JJ has been struggling. Never seen him this inaccurate. Al, if you watched game, is overall pressure causing bad mechanics?
I can't. I didn't really watch a game, so I can't answer that. Well, the game I saw him played really good. And it was unfortunately it was Detroit, but I'd heard that he did, but I can't speak to it because I didn't watch it. And even if I did, I'd be hesitant to make a lot of observations unless I got through the all 22 and watched every play. Really broke him down.
Young quarterback.
He's a freshman, Sam. He's a freshman. Right? I mean, he didn't play last year. Not really. I mean, so he's learning too.
Is this his 4th start in the National Football League? Like
that's we call our league big boy football. That's big boy football. Okay.
I don't hope or wish for bad things for JJ, but I do wish for the Vikings to give up on him so the Lions can get him. I do wish for that. I do. Because I think the dude is going to be big time, and he has all the tools that I think you need to be to take a team like the Lions to the next level. Now, I haven't given up on Jared Goff. No. I think you got to have a great offensive line to win with Jared Goff, and I think we've seen evidence of that. We saw evidence of that yet again the other night. Mm-hmm. So, anyway. On to the next one. David Mendenhall kind of picked this up. You kind of addressed this already, Al. I believe Kuz can be a good back from David Mendenhall, but do you think we're going to pass more against Maryland with Marshall?
Yeah. We talked about that. Yeah.
It's not, and let's not go predetermining. The outcome. Let's. I think they're going to go in with balance as the.
I do too. Hey, he looked capable to me, didn't he? Didn't look good. He ran pretty good.
Yeah. So Deuce Wright says, is Bryce not seeing the field, or is he locking on to his receivers? Is he having more issues when the field is condensed?
I think we've cited pretty much what he does. Locking into receivers, I don't know. I mean, when you got a guy like Marsh who's running hot, he is going to be more inclined, if all things are equal, right, to want to look his way. There's not a quarterback in America, college, pro, youth league, that doesn't think that way. But to say that he's consistently locking into receivers, I don't know about that. I think some of his errors are just game-specific things that he's still got to learn, okay? And we detail pretty good the 2 interceptions, I think, that are examples of that.
On to the next one. Moy Sauce 3 says, Marsh is a true freshman, right? He's going to be something. Yes, true freshman.
I think a young team. This team could really be something.
He said ATM.
Yeah.
I take it to the bank. Okay, ATM. Like it's my initials. So I'm open for business.
Open for business.
That's right. Whatever bank wants to come with the NIL, here I am. He's trying to tell you. All right, here we go to the next one. How you want to co-sign this, Al? Everything, this from Michael Dunn, everything Bryce has been through this year will get him ready for Ohio soft. How about that, Al?
I'm with it. I'm good. I'm on board. I am on board. Yeah, we're going to. These experiences. I think the fans are starting to appreciate it a little bit. Some are still, up in arms over every bad play, but the guy has to go through some of this, man. He just does. These game-specific errors that are going to happen, particularly with young players, and he's got to go through this. But I think before it's over, you're going to get a product that's going to understand the game so much better after this year and through a spring football. That just you're not going to be talking about some of these things. The interceptions or some of the footballs are going to go away. It just happens with guys with this much ability.
All right, on to the next one. This comes from Smash the Numbers. Al, would you give Underwood more designed runs with the running backs injured and only 2 games left? He may need to rack up some rushing yards.
Fantastic observation, in my opinion. That's the best one so far. Good job, Smash the Numbers, because I think there's something to that. Now we're down to 2 games left, and obviously there'll be more after that, no matter what happens playoff wise. Why not? Why not? And we got 2 backs down, and he's shown he's a capable runner. Again, I wouldn't go crazy. I wouldn't Denard Robinson him, but I think a few quarterback runs with the situation they're in would be a really good idea. So I'm on board with that. And it is the end of the season. That's the thing. Now you don't have to worry about it. You lose your quarterback in the second game of the season, and you go, oh, God, why did I do that? But now you can be a little bit more footloose and fancy-free, I think.
All right. On to the next one. This one is from Harvey Norwood. Al, you should be on the sidelines in a young fella's ear while Chip is in the box. Come out of retirement, Al. Come out of retirement.
Right where I belong, on my couch. Right where I belong. If I was on the sideline, somebody'd run me over and I'd be dead. So I'm in survival mode. I'm 70 years old right now, and I can sit in the cheap seats and
you don't look
wisecracks all I want. You know what I mean?
You don't look 70 at all, Al. How about that? Nick Prezotto says, Al, where has Marlon Klein gone in the passing game? Big week against New Mexico, then injuries, then not much else.
Yeah, I don't know. He wasn't featured as much. I think there were a couple, but he wasn't featured as much. But the thing about Marlon, and God, I like him. I watch him practice. He's a really impressive guy, very athletic. But he is a speed tight end. Okay, he's a throw verticals, throw corner routes type of deal. He's not as much option routes and some of this other stuff as maybe some of the tight ends they've had in the past. So he's not featured as much on those types of plays, the plays that a lot of the fan base are used to seeing the tight ends catch. So he has a role, and it's a good role, and he's consistent with regard to his blocking and such. But I think there are certain things that they want him to do and ask other guys to do other things. So I think that's probably it. He's a capable guy, and I think there'll be a game. I'm not sure when it's going to be where he's going to produce some numbers that'll get your attention.
All right, on to the next one for Borges. All right. This one from Steve Horn, 822. Gorgeous, I noticed we had success in the I formation ISO play this week. Instead of going down G, it seems that Northwestern was playing for down G on the goal line. Oh, is he talking about G lead?
G lead, yeah, and he's right. That was the best defended G lead I've seen. What happened is, they were in a goal line front. They were a double eagle type look, which they showed before. They ran the G lead to the left because they had run the isolation for a touchdown earlier, and then they ran the isolation again for a touchdown. But what they did a great job. The outside guy came down and squeezed the hell out of the play. The guard hooked him, okay, and then the back went out to block the corner, but the linebacker scraped so tight because on the G lead, a lot of times you can't get the Mike linebacker. You tell the back that could be your guy. Well, he could have gone inside the corner's block, the back's block in the corner, but the linebacker was in very good position to play it. So my hat's off to Northwestern on how they played that. Okay, you had to give it a shot because on paper, it's been a good play, but they did give up 2 ISOs for touchdowns. So Michigan had the counter punch, and a lot of times in goal line, you got this plan that you're going to do, and then all of a sudden, oh God, they're a little stout on this, but you have enough counter punches to go to the next play, and they did it successfully. So hats off to them. So, but that play, the G League, they ran. Northwestern defended very well.
All right, on to the next one. This one comes from DBets10. Al, are you seeing evidence of good outcome, bad process with Bryce? For example, completions where the read wasn't ideal. Is that a hard condition to coach under?
Well, it can be. Yeah, it can be at times. But remember, if you keep him in his power zone, okay, and then allow him the ability to improv on the things that aren't necessarily in his power zone, okay, you're going to get a good product as long as he's making good decisions. Now, obviously in this game, that's arguable, right? But for the most part, I think particularly after a couple of turnovers, that's what they did. And that's what, in the end of the day, got him the win. Let him do what he does well. Keep working on what he doesn't do as well, knowing you're still going to have to do some pocket passing. You can't can that, okay? And then understand that within that realm, allow him to use his improvisational skills to bail him out when things aren't perfect. I don't know if that even answered the question, but I think that's been their approach.
All right. On to the next one from Gorgeous Borges. Got a time for a few more here. Michigan Real Talk. Coach, last week I asked about progress watching guy for Bryce. Eyes, feet, timing, etc. How do you think he did with those things over the last few games? Improving?
No doubt. This game, definitely improving. Definitely improving. I mean, I had, let me just take a quick look here so I can answer that question a little more definitively. I had 3 times where I thought his footwork was not good. That's pretty good. I mean, they weren't even necessarily unsuccessful plays. It just wasn't what I thought, okay? What I thought it should be. I had him with 2 misreads, okay? The fumble we saw. I thought there was a play he should have pulled that he didn't pull. And twice I had him leaving the pocket early, and those some coaches might even debate those. But yes, there was definite progress made in this game in that regard.
Okay. Just real quick, Steve Horn says, 70 never looked so gorgeous.
You got that right, Steve.
Smash never said, I thought Al was 54.
What a stud. Who's that? Smashed. I'm liking him. I liked it. Asked a great question. Very observant to think that I look 54. This guy is my kind of guy. Okay, Sam?
Mike has said Al looks.
If you got one of those, what do you call chats? The super chats. Put him ahead of those guys. It don't matter.
Yeah, Mike has said Al looks 63 at best.
63 at best.
CJ Mike 1024 said Al don't look 70 years old. He really is gorgeous.
Yeah, you see, this is what I'm talking about, Sam. This is these guys. I always said this, even when I was coaching, and they yelled at me all the time. This is an educated fan base. Okay, they know.
Smash the number said Al Benjamin Button Borges.
Oh, Benjamin Button. I wish I was working the other way. I don't think I am. I think every day it's harder to get out of bed.
You got to tell you, Al, you got a fan base, man.
Yeah.
You got a fan base. All right. Al, how would you rate Chip as an OC? Is Bryce on schedule in terms of development?
I think, well, first of all, Chip Lindsey has done a fabulous job. Now, When you call the plays, people are going to argue that. I don't care who it is. Give you a genius. I think he's done a good job. And what he's done, in my opinion, he has added some things to this offense that they didn't do, and it's made a difference. Now, is a quarterback coming as fast as everybody wants him to? No, because unless he's throwing for 300 yards a game and never throws a pick, you're never going as fast as he wanted to. But he has added the RPO game. He has added the outside zone game. He has added the screen game, and he has made a difference in what they're doing in a positive way. Now, a lot of that stuff's new for these guys, so it may not be as perfect as you want. But I think, again, in time, when these plays become more ingrained, the product's going to get better and better, particularly when you're playing with such a young team.
All right, couple more for Gorgeous Borges, who has a gorgeous fan club. How about that? We have. This is a good one. We'll skip the Lions. Here we go. This is about play calls, Al. This is a really, really good one I wanted you to address. And it says, based on your analysis from Lama Bryant, at this point in the season, based on your analysis and experience, what one play, running or passing, would you have Chip Lindsey call more?
Boy, is that a good question.
Right?
Yeah, that's going to require some thinking there. I guess more quarterback runs. I'd like to see a couple more of those. Again, not going crazy, but I like to see if maybe a little quarterback read counter where you can hand him the sweep or run the quarterback on a counter play, something like that. Maybe a little bit more of that. But I mean, I'm telling you, man, play calling is tough because they always yell about the ones that don't work, right? The G lead that doesn't work, and the reverse. That's the one that kills me. Everybody complaining about the reverse. And if he calls that a play earlier, it's a hit, but because he didn't, it's a bad call. And it really, I guess you can make them call them bad calls, but to me, they're just untimely calls, And if you call a play on 2nd and 4, there's so many things you could do in that situation. And if you guess right and they're in the right look, you got a lot better chance for the play to work, right? So it's when you call it, not what you call. And but I guess to answer the question, I'm all over the place here, but I think maybe a couple more quarterback runs.
All right. Grand Info 5165. Al, would you give the fullback Bredesen more carries in the upcoming Maryland game to give Cuz Doll a breather? Or are you comfortable playing a backup freshman running back at the end of the game?
No, I would probably stick with the running backs. I wouldn't start. And I haven't seen Max run the ball very much, so I don't really know. But that in itself speaks volumes because you start handling the ball, the guy that has handled it a lot, even if he's a tough, reliable player now, as much as there's anybody in this team, both sides of the ball. But now you're putting him in an element that's not really in his comfort zone, and you're risking some issues there. So I would be inclined to either give the ball to the backs, which they're much more accustomed to handling the ball more, and let Max do what he does best, than start reinventing the wheel as to who's going to be the ball carrier.
Yeah. I think that is a great place to conclude the breakdown. We got some folks that are trying to counsel me on the Lions, saying that they think the Lions lost just because of all the 4th down calls.
They were loving him when he made them.
Yeah, hey, listen, I think the Lions lost because they don't have an offensive line that can block a really good front. And unfortunately, the Eagles have a really good front. Yes, a better front now that they traded for Jalen Phillips.
Yep.
And the Packers have a really good front, which they saw already once this year, and they're going to see again on Thanksgiving Day. I just think, the chance against Philly that you don't really have against, chance against Green Bay that you don't have as much against Philly is, I just think that Philly's quarterback, Jalen Hurts, is a much better quarterback than my man for the Packers.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think the Lions, Sam, are best when they play pass. When they're effectively play passing, they do that as well as anybody, if not better than anybody in the league. But the problem with that is if you're not running the ball like you like to run the ball, the effectiveness that can get, and you're just not as effective for obvious reasons. But they are an excellent play action pass team, and when they're playing at their best, that's a huge reason why.
Yeah. Well, Borges, as always, my friend, great knowledge and wisdom you have imparted upon the fan base.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
We have fans who get it. Listen, it was a tight one. It was a nail biter. It was a game that, given 5 turnovers, they were fortunate to win, but they made the plays necessary to get that done.
Yeah.
On the road, quarterback was resilient, made some clutch plays at the end after some mistakes. That is to be lauded and commended. And your kicker, after missing the kick early, made a big kick, and your defense made some key stops. It wasn't like it was just gifted to them, and Northwestern made a bunch of mistakes. Michigan still made the plays they had to make at the end to get the win. So now, Al, and this is the way to close it, a funny thing can happen. An experience like that, I mean, it can be your best friend if it spurs growth. That's the big question. Will the experience spur growth for this team?
Yeah, I think it will too. Not just for Bryce, but for a lot of guys. You've got a receiver that has come to the surface, and I still think McCulley, there's some more big plays in him too. Okay, but the only thing that concerns me at this point, personally, is the running back situation. And not that the kids aren't capable of playing right now, but if you lost those first two have been playing exceptionally well. And that will not be easy to supplement.
Yeah. No doubt. Nailed it, Al Borges. That's a great place to end. Not a great topic to end on, but a great place to end this week's edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown. Be sure to tune in in about 12 minutes, as we'll have the defensive breakdown with Vance. Until next week, we'll be back with Al Borges. See you then on the next edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown, focused on the offense with Al Borges.
Go Blue.